Well, parents everywhere spend countless hours planning kids' birthday parties, play dates, and even for college, but rarely plan for an accident or if something happened to them. It's a subject that most parents don't even want to think about. But family and financial attorney Jason Wall says it's so important to make sure your children are taken care of if the unthinkable occurs. Jason, thanks for joining us this morning.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Very important topic here to talk about. Tell us, why is it so important that we protect our children?
Well, it's important to have a legal plan. It's important to be proactive.
Sure.
You know, as a parent, you want to think about naming a long-term guardian for your child, a short-term guardian for your child, and also plan for their financial future. It's hard to believe, but nearly 69% of parents have no plan in place to protect their children.
And that's about 7 out of 10
It is.
parents.
And it's kind of scary if you
That
think
really
about
is. It really is. All right. So why is it so important to have legal planning in place?
Well, if you don't have a plan in writing, and let's be clear, it needs to be writing, you just can't tell someone this plan, then the court makes those decisions for you. So if you think about it, a court who doesn't know your family, doesn't know your children, don't know your values, they would make that determination and not you.
And a lot of parents will have a will, but that's not sufficient enough.
For most families, it's not. A will is a good starting point.
Sure.
For a lot of families, it's just simply not enough. A will doesn't name short-term guardians, emergency guardians, and it's not really the best way to handle the financial future of your children.
Okay, and you say that there are about 6 key mistakes that parents make when naming guardians. Let's go down those 6.
Well, the first one is when you are looking at naming a couple to be guardians for your children, and you want to make sure that either party, you're comfortable with being the guardian. So, for example, if I name my sister and my brother-in-law as guardians for my kids, and if something happens to my sister, am I okay with my brother-in-law solely being the guardian?
Okay, that's a good point.
The second is just simply not naming enough choices. You want to have a first, second, and third choice. The third, you want to make sure that financial resources of the potential guardian is not the guiding decision for you. You want to think about, in terms of who should be the guardians, their values, their parenting style, their relationship with your children, and not solely their financial resources.
Okay.
And that kind of leads us to the fourth one. You as a parent, you want to make sure you have put together those financial resources to leave behind for your children. Don't just assume that a will or perhaps an insurance policy is going to be the best way to leave financial assets for your kids. You probably want to think about a living trust at that point.
Good point there.
And the fifth, and this is probably the most interesting one of all, is excluding certain people from being considered guardian as your kids. You know, chances are there's someone in your family you know you don't want to raise your children.
Right.
You want to be proactive and go ahead and exclude that party. And then the final mistake that we see is when parents do not name any guardians for the short term or for an emergency situation.
Very interesting, very smart tips there. We do appreciate that. Very important for parents to delve into that, for sure.
Without a doubt.
Jason, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. My pleasure.